Nobody in Willow Bend ever forgot the night a tired woman stumbled into Carter's auto service minutes before closing, eyes red, hands shaking, hope nearly gone. What they didn't know was that the quiet black mechanic who stepped forward to help her wasn't just fixing a car. He was about to repay a debt he'd carried in his heart for 20 years, a debt that had changed the course of his life. That night began like any other for Carter Hughes. The November air hung cold over the small Tennessee town as he wiped grease from his hands and reached to switch off the bay lights. His back ached from a long day of repairs, but he felt that familiar peace, knowing he had helped people who relied on their cars just as much as they relied on their lungs. He was halfway to locking the garage when a sound cut through the quiet evening. A slow, uneven grinding of metal. A struggling engine. A cry for help wrapped in machinery. Carter turned as an old silver sedan limped into the lot, coughing smoke like it was taking its last breath. The car jolted to a stop, and before the headlights dimmed, he saw a young woman step out, clutching the door like she needed it to stay upright. She looked exhausted, emotionally drained, her hair frizzy from the wind, her coat too thin for the weather. She took one shaky breath before asking if anybody was still open. Carter walked toward her. "Evenin'," he said gently. "Rough night?" The woman nodded, trying to steady her voice. "My name's Dana. I'm sorry to come so late. My car started smoking on the highway, and this was the only shop with lights on." She pushed her fingers through her hair, fighting to hide how close she was to breaking. "I have to make it to Asheville tonight. It's important." Carter heard something in her voice that made him pause. Not urgency. Not frustration. Pain. He gave her a calm, reassuring smile. "You're here now. Let me take a look." Dana exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for hours. Carter popped the hood and leaned over the engine. Even without a diagnostic, he could tell the situation wasn't good. The radiator hose had snapped, and coolant had drained everywhere. A few more miles and she could have destroyed the engine completely. He stepped back and shut the hood softly. "You were lucky this thing didn't quit on the highway," he said. "Radiator's out. Hose is gone. Fan belt's worn down. I can fix it, but it's a few hours' work." Dana's shoulders sank. How much would it cost?" Carter saw her swallow hard before the question even finished. He understood that look. He'd seen it too many times, a person bracing for a number they couldn't afford. Before he could answer, she whispered, I don't have a lot of money. I can pay something. Just not everything right now." He studied her face, tired, red around the eyes, the kind of exhaustion that comes from life, not just a long drive. She wasn't lying. She was desperate. "You need to get to Asheville tonight?" he asked softly. "Yes," she said, blinking fast. "My mom had complications after surgery. She's asking for me." Her voice cracked. "I've been driving since 4 this morning, trying to get there." That hit something deep in him. Carter breathed in slowly, then stepped back. "Dana, go sit in the waiting room. I'll take care of your car." She stared at him. "But before we talk about the price." He gave her a slow shake of his head. "Let me handle the car first. We'll talk later." She didn't understand. He could see it. But she didn't argue. She walked into the waiting room, her tired footsteps echoing through the quiet shop. As soon as the door closed behind her, Carter rolled up his sleeves and went to work. He didn't turn on music like he usually did. He didn't check his phone. He worked with a kind of intense, silent focus that surprised even him. Every bolt, every clamp, every replacement felt purposeful. While he worked, his mind drifted to a memory he didn't talk about. A night on a different highway. A different car. A different woman, scared, alone, and needing help. He tightened a hose clamp and tried to push the memory away, but it kept coming back. He remembered snow covering the road, the sound of sirens in the distance, and the promise he made standing beside a totaled car. A promise he'd carried for years. Help every woman who breaks down on the road. Help them the way someone helped his mother when he couldn't. By the time he finished repairs, the clock read 10:56 p.m. Carter wiped his hands clean and walked to the waiting room. Dana was sitting with her coat wrapped around her, eyes closed but not sleeping. When she heard his footsteps, she stood quickly. Is it bad? Carter smiled. It's fixed. Her relief was instant, her shoulders dropping, breath releasing, eyes filling. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you so much. He nodded. You're good to drive to Asheville now. Then she asked the question he knew was coming. How much do I owe you? Please, just tell me. Carter took a breath. You don't owe me anything. Dana froze. What? It's free, he said simply. Her face twisted in confusion. Almost disbelief. No, I can't let you do that. I don't even know you. Why would you help me for free? Carter looked at her for a long moment. He was finally ready to tell the one truth he'd held for years. And when he did, it left her speechless. Carter didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked over to the workbench, folded the last grease rag of the night, and placed it neatly beside the others. Dana watched him with confusion in her eyes, waiting, almost afraid to breathe. Finally, he turned back to her. 20 years ago, he said slowly, my mother was driving alone on a winter highway. Her car spun out on black ice and went straight into a ditch. It was dark. Freezing. She could have died out there. Dana listened, eyes softening. I was a teenager back then, he continued. My mom was all I had. When she didn't come home, I panicked. I thought, he paused, working through the memories that still carried weight. I thought I'd lost her. The shop felt quieter than before, like the walls themselves were listening. She told me later that a stranger stopped. A woman. Nobody else was on the road, no cars, no houses nearby. Just that woman. She climbed down the ditch, pulled my mother out, wrapped her in her own coat, and waited with her until the paramedics came. Dana blinked slowly. That's incredible. Do you know who she was? No, Carter said softly. They never found her. My mom said she didn't stay long, just long enough to make sure she was safe. Then she slipped away before anyone could thank her. Like she didn't want recognition. He swallowed, his voice thickening. My mom made me promise something that night. She said, Carter, if you ever see a woman stranded or in trouble on the road, you stop. You help. You be the person that woman was to me. Dana pressed a hand to her mouth as emotion rose in her eyes. That's why your repairs are free, Carter said gently. Because somebody saved the most important person in my life. I can't repay her. But I can pay it forward. Dana didn't speak for several seconds. She simply stood there, overwhelmed, tears slipping down her cheeks. When she finally managed words, her voice shook. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Carter replied. Just get to your mother. She needs you. Dana wiped her eyes, trying to pull herself together. You don't know how much this means. I was scared I wasn't going to make it in time. Carter nodded, his expression warm and steady. You'll make it. She took a deep breath, letting the relief settle over her. I wish I could repay you somehow. You already did, he said softly. You reminded me why I made that promise. They stepped outside into the crisp night air. The sky was dark, stars faint behind thin clouds. Carter opened her car door and made sure everything sounded right under the hood. The engine purred now, steady and healthy, nothing like the coughing wreck that had rolled in hours earlier. Dana stood beside him, hesitating. Carter. I won't forget this. Ever. He smiled. Just drive safe. She climbed in, started the engine, and rolled down the window. I hope life gives you just as much kindness as you showed me tonight. Carter tapped the roof lightly. It already has. Dana pulled away, the taillights glowing red as her car disappeared down the quiet road. For a long moment, Carter stood in the cold, watching until the road was empty again. Then he locked the shop, turned off the lights, and stepped into the silence of the night, never expecting that this wouldn't be the last time he'd see her. Dana drove through the night with renewed strength. Mile after mile, she replayed Carter's story, his mother, that unknown rescuer, the promise he'd carried for decades. For the first time since she'd gotten the call about her mother's complications, she felt protected, like someone was watching over her. Hours later, when she arrived at the Asheville Medical Center, she rushed inside. Her mother, pale and tired but awake, smiled when she entered. "You made it," her mother whispered. Dana broke into quiet tears as she hugged her. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "But someone helped me. Someone who didn't even know me." Her mother stroked her hair gently. "God sends people when we need them." Dana smiled softly. "Yeah. I think he did." The next morning, Carter woke to a soft tapping on his shop's door, much earlier than he usually opened. When he stepped outside, he froze. A small crowd stood in front of his shop. At least 20 people, men, women, young, old. Some held coffee cups. Others had cameras or phones out. A few were dressed like reporters. And standing at the front, was Dana. Carter blinked in shock. "Dana? What's all this?" She stepped forward, smiling through tired eyes. "I told you I wanted to repay you. You didn't want money, so I did something else." Before he could ask, she turned to the crowd and spoke loudly. "This is the man I told you about. The mechanic who fixed my car for free so I could reach my mother in time. This is the man who made a promise to honor a stranger's kindness. He deserves to be recognized." Carter's heart raced. "Dana. I didn't." But he stopped when he noticed the sign one of the townspeople was holding. Carter's Community Care Fund, to help every stranded driver. Dana smiled. People donated. A lot of people. Enough to help you keep helping others, without losing anything yourself. Carter felt something warm flood his chest. Gratitude. Shock. Something bigger. He looked at Dana, this woman he'd helped just hours ago, and felt a powerful truth settle inside him. Kindness always circles back. In ways you never expect.